Hello, beautiful creatures. I'm Leslyn from Indigo Revolve, and this is my vegan story. So I'm a raw food vegan, and as of late, I've actually felt not just raw food, but raw emotionally from being vegan, and so I thought I would share my little inlet on why myself and my family's gone vegan. So a little background on me. I was always an animal lover and hung out with dogs and cats and really any creature that wasn't human growing up. The human species of animal I never really vibed with. So as a kid, growing up in Chicago, I was always hanging out with my dog and my cats and reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe to squirrels and crows in the graveyard and just always being outside the mainstream. And then in college, I actually started rescuing and working with local shelters to rehabilitate fighter dogs. And now, for the last 2 years, I've actually had the great honor to work with horses holistically. So in holistic equine rehab, I use essential oils and Reiki and other energy work, and it's been magical. 2 years ago, I started my journey with essential oils and holistic health and energy work at the same time that I started working with horses. Now, being a city kid, this was my first farm that I had ever been on. And yeah, I didn't even know what a pitchfork was. It was quite a rude awakening to go from complete metropolitan kid to country gal. And working with horses has been amazing for so many different reasons, and it's made me a far better leader and person, because the way that horses work, especially a herd of horses, there's a hierarchy and there are relationships, and some are sassy and some are ridiculous, and all the different personas that you get in a herd of horses are incredible and unlike anything that my wildest dreams thought it could be. And I then started questioning what's the difference between a horse and a cow. And so as a city kid, I thought, okay, well, I think it's time for me to know. And so I went out and I introduced myself to some cows. And cows and horses are these big, beautiful, graceful mammals, and they have an amazing social hierarchy and relationships with their young, and there's protective and instincts from mothers and fathers and all of it, and it was amazing. And then after meeting my first cows, then I thought, okay, well, I think it's time for me to meet some pigs. And so I went and I met pigs, and then of course I was like, all right, so those animals, again, actually have a lot to say and a very unique viewpoint in the world. So that led me to chickens and turkeys and actually going to people's farms and meeting their animals. And I'm an animal communicator. This is one of the things that I do for a living. And for years, I've worked with people's pets and worked with their dogs and their cats and their bunnies and their guinea pigs. This is what I do. And so being an animal communicator, around my first herd of cows and my first time being around pigs and all of these barnyard animals, there was not an inch of me that could pretend anymore that I didn't hear them. And there's all of these arguments about sentience and sapience and all of these things. And when it comes right to it, I'm an earthling, they're an earthling, they're alive, I'm alive. There's a lot of similarities. And so instantly, a year ago, I went vegetarian because that was it. I couldn't do it. As I said, I went vegetarian because I didn't look into the dairy industry yet, which is totally on me. A year ago, on top of going vegetarian, I met my man. And my man is from Oregon, and he is as wild as they come and as natural as they come. And Brighton caused a lot of reflection in my life, and we went vegetarian together. And we got pregnant twice this year. And this was my second and third miscarriage of my life in this past year. And it's really hard to like meet the man of your dreams, marry him, and miscarry twice. And as newlyweds, it's quite taxing. And a little spoiler alert, when you get pregnant and when you go vegan or vegetarian, everybody has stuff to say. You should raise your kids this way, you should do this, you should do that. And then on top of normal, where do you get your protein questions when you're pregnant and then unpregnant, the pressure from people to go back to eating meat and to load up on eggs and to load up on all of these animal proteins, it was outstanding. And of course, all of these people are reaching out from what they know best and telling me their best knowledge at that time. And I appreciate that. And I went back to eating meat again. And so my body was kind of in shock because I would go from eating 4 days of really awesome, nutritious food into slamming back into cheese and dairy products and meat. And it was wild. It was absolutely wild. And my third miscarriage, I was a lot further along. And when you give birth to a stillborn child, it changes you more than I could put into words. And when you hold the flesh of your dead child, it's a piece of meat. And that's all it is. And it's lifeless and it's fleshy and it's death. And touching meat and looking at meat became extremely traumatizing after I miscarried because, hell, it's pretty obvious. The correlation for me was really outstanding. And so then I'm being pressured to eat meat. Meat is literally traumatizing, and I'm like gagging on chicken and crying while I'm trying to eat chicken. And then 3 months ago, I realized that I couldn't eat meat anymore, and I couldn't do it. And this time I was going to actually research, which I should have done first of all, what my body needs and how to do it properly. And my research led me to the dairy industry. The tears. I told you I was raw. And as a grieving mother, learning that these cows have to get pregnant, which city kid ignorance. Yeah, I really didn't know that. And I didn't know that they not only had to give birth once, but that in order to continue milk production, they had to continuously get pregnant, and that those calves are looked at as a byproduct of the dairy industry. And they're either veal or the next generation of dairy slaves. And even though I was only a mother for a short time, that instinct, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that motherly instinct, because at that point I would have done anything for my kid. Anything at all. And the more time I spend around horses, and the more cows that I meet, and the more animals that I meet, when I see them in their natural states where they are allowed to bond with their young, that instinct is the same. So as a grieving mother, I went completely vegan, no cheese, never. As a feminist, I looked at the way that the egg industry and the dairy industry are all women forced to do reproductive things constantly for years until their bodies give out and then they're slaughtered. So as a feminist, I went vegan. And those are all ethical reasons. And I think the biggest health reason for me is because once you have 3 miscarriages, then everything gets really serious. And then doctors start bringing out the endometriosis diagnosis. And because I miscarried and loaded up on dairy, I actually managed to give myself systemic candida at that time. And so I went from the loss of my third kid to systemic candida to endometriosis, so constant bodily pain, constant suffering. And then I reach out to all of these amazing specialists and nutritionalists, and it's brought back to my diet. On top of my love for animals and my care and my gratitude for all of these animals and what they've done for me, I actually, because of my choices, led myself into fertility struggles. The amount of hormones in dairy and eggs and processed meats. And now that I have learned so much about coronary heart disease and cancer and reproductive struggles in men and women, my ignorance led to my own miscarriages. And this video is very serious and very heavy. And I know that in almost all of my videos, I'm very uplifting and perky and positive. However, today I had multiple friends reach out and say that they don't get it and they don't understand. And they think that I'm being ridiculous, and I'm literally getting scrutiny from other people about veganism and how it's looked at as extreme. And so instead of reaching out to all of these people individually, I thought, hey, I am positive I am not the only mother that has miscarried and is totally freaked out my meat after miscarrying. And I'm positive that I'm not the only ignorant city kid that had no idea about the dairy industry. And I'm positive that I'm not the only person going through all of these things. And I'm beyond positive I'm not the only emotional person in all of this. And so I decided to make a video and just go public with my story and how I got into this, because veganism for all aspects is benefiting my life beyond compare. And now, first of all, my husband and I are not trying to have a child at this point. We've instead decided that we want to have a whole vegan farm sanctuary of children and adopt a cow and adopt a pig and actually give people the chance to come and bond with these creatures. So that's the kid part. And then the health part, veganism, out of everything that I tried to cure candida and out of everything that I tried to get rid of the pain from endometriosis, veganism is the only thing that has worked for me. I tried supplementation, really loading up on holistic medicine. I even tried bone broth and all these different diets and all these different like strict lean meat things, and it didn't work. On top of being traumatized even looking at the meat, I was trying to wolf it down. And none of it worked, and the pain actually got worse. And now I'm 3 months in. Ethically, I feel so much better. I feel, for the first time, like I'm not being hypocritical about being an animal rescuer and not having this weird speciesism of rescuing some and eating others. So ethically, I feel better. And above all of that, it's almost like a good karma being rewarded. All of a sudden, the place in my body where I have endometriosis is calming and it's not painful, and I can sleep at night, and sex is becoming less painful, and my relationship with my husband is blooming because we're both standing there and looking at one another with truth, with complete mental clarity. The brain fog and the veil's been lifted. Once you quit dairy, you'll understand what I mean. And for the first time in my life, I'm able to view everything very clearly and from this beautiful place of gratitude. And actually, since I've gone vegan and the pain has been literally decreasing to the point that there are some days that there isn't pain, because of this, I'm actually able to have the space to grieve and to look at the fact that I've lost 3 children and I'm in my 20s. And it's also giving me the space to reach out with the other women that are going through this, because now 1 in 4 women are miscarrying and half of those women have endometriosis. This is not a rarity anymore. And if you have gone through these things, or if you know anyone that has, I really encourage you to reach out and ask questions and do your own research about a plant-based diet, because the only thing that has actually been working for me is this. So again, big rant, lots of tears, lots of raw emotion. I knew it was going to be messy. It was messier than I thought. However, I have tried to shoot this video 30 times and couldn't do it without crying. So this is the best that I have, and please reach out and ask me questions about nutrition. And if people are pressuring you into eating meat because they think it's needed, understand that they're doing the best that they can and that it is not. And that actually all of the hormones could be causing the things that you're going through. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and this video will be the heaviest one I'll do, and I'll go back to my normal, very positive and smiley self. And I really appreciate you listening to my story, and more than anything, I want to hear your story and hear where you are, and I want to know how I can serve you. So thank you, and namaste.